Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to Andy's Reviews, and today we are going to be reviewing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, directed by Kemp Powers, Justin K. Thompson, and Joaquim dos Santos, and starring the likes of Shameik Moore, Hailee Steinfeld, Oscar Isaac, Jake Johnson, and a whole bunch of other actors. Let's get into it. When it comes to discussing the pros of this movie, I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed the opening sequence of the movie featuring Gwen Stacy and her father, Captain Stacy, and how these two actually have a very strong father and daughter relationship that is established early on in the movie. But the thing that truly made the opening sequence very special has to be the fact that Captain Stacy actually found out for the very first time that his own daughter, aka Gwen Stacy, has been lying to her the entire time as to who she really is in the movie and in the city of New York. As you already know through the comics, Gwen Stacy is actually Spider-Woman who actually goes out in the afternoons at night to stop crimes in the city of New York City. But Captain Stacy, realizing that his very own daughter actually lied to him as to who she really was in the afternoons, served to be one of the most gut-wrenching scenes early on in the movie. So basically, in the scene, Captain Stacy finally realizes that his own daughter is Spider-Woman, aka the vigilante that he has been chasing down for multiple years, trying to get to the secret identity of this person. But when he realizes that this vigilante was actually his own daughter the entire time, you can see all the emotion going across his face as he realizes that his entire life, at least the last 2 years, have been a complete lie, and how his own daughter doesn't even trust him with this very super secret. But to make things even worse, Captain Stacy is willing to point a gun and shoot his very own daughter for lying to him this entire time. But the thing that truly made this scene very special has to be the fact that the animators chose to give this scene its very own unique color palette when it came to its animation. So basically, in the scene, the animators chose to use watercolors to show the cheerful and sorrowful emotions of Gwen's father as he realizes that he has to shoot his own daughter in order to take her to justice for the murder of Peter Parker, aka Gwen's very own best friend, who she did not kill to begin with. And of course, the second main thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the animation styles that the animators chose for this movie. This movie contains at least 10 different animation styles that represent each of the universes that we the audience get to visit along with these characters. For example, the animators chose a specific animation style for the city of Mombasa, New York, which is a combination of Mumbai, India, and New York City in the world of Pavitra Pibaka. And of course, the second animation style that I thoroughly enjoyed in this movie has to be the animation style that the animators chose to represent the homeworld of Miguel O'Hara, aka Nueva York, which is a very futuristic city in which Miguel O'Hara establishes Spider Society. And of course, the third main thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the complex storylines and themes that this movie decides to cover to begin with. This movie deals with the themes of responsibility, family, and identity, which is heavily represented by the character arc or story arc that our main character, Miles Morales, goes through the events of the movie. So basically, Miles Morales, aka the African-American Spider-Man that we see in this movie, as he's applying to college while also trying to improve the relationship that he has with his parents, especially considering how his parents are beginning to catch on the lie or secret that Miles has been hiding for many years. Where the main internal conflict that Miles Morales is currently facing is deciding whether or not he should reveal to his parents who he really is in the afternoons, aka Spider-Man. And of course, the fourth main thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the musical score composed by Daniel Pemberton, and how he was able to create a soundtrack unlike any other I've ever heard in my entire life. Some of my personal favorite pieces from his work in this movie has to be the likes of Falling Apart, Nueva York Train Chase, Callaham, Assemble, The Right to Remain Silent, along with a whole bunch of other pieces in this movie. The thing that truly made this soundtrack very special has to be the fact that Daniel Pemberton was able to combine the awesomeness of orchestra, electrical music, and R&B all into one awesome soundtrack. And of course, the fifth main thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the innovative animation that the animators chose for this movie. Basically, every frame of this movie is made to perfection, where the animators actually chose to represent different multiverses that we the audience get to visit with these characters with different animation styles. For example, we the audience get to visit the universe where Miles Morales actually ends up becoming a bad guy because he never got bitten by the radioactive spider, and we even get to visit Gwen Stacy's homeworld, which is heavily represented by the use of very bright colors such as pink and white. And of course, the sixth main thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the fact that this movie has a whole bunch of new and memorable characters. For example, some of my personal favorite characters in the movie, both new and old, has to be Peter B. Parker, Hobie, Pavitra Pipaka, Mary Jane, Peter B. Parker's daughter of May Parker, and a whole bunch of other characters. I especially enjoyed the way that the animators and directors of this movie were able to give these characters such uniqueness to the point where they're actually very memorable by the end of the events of the movie. And of course, the seventh main thing I thoroughly enjoy about this movie has to be Oscar Isaac's performance as Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, and how he was able to be both a villain and a hero in the very same movie at the same time, depending on whose point of view you, the audience member, shares in regards to this very movie. So basically, Miguel O'Hara in the movie is portrayed as both a hero and a villain in the sense that he was willing to do whatever it takes to save the integrity of the multiverse by sacrificing specific timelines in order to save the entirety of the Spider-Verse. However, of course, he was also a villain in the sense that he was willing to sacrifice people, individuals, and entire universes simply to save the overall arc of the multiverse, to the point where he was even willing to sacrifice the life of Miles Morales' dad, aka Jefferson Davis, in order to save the entirety of the multiverse. Something that Miles Morales, aka the protagonist of this movie, was not in favor of. Which makes a lot of sense considering how Miles Morales really loves his dad. And of course, the eighth main thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the world building and the concepts that the animators, directors, and writers in this movie decided to implement in this movie. For example, the writers in this movie decided to introduce the idea or concept of canon events, which are events that all Spider-Man have in common. For example, the death of Uncle Ben, the death of May Parker, the spider bite, the death of a friend turned villain, and so many others. And of course, the second main concept that I thoroughly enjoyed seeing in this movie has to be the fact that interrupting these so-called canon events, such as the death of Ben Parker, can actually cause a black hole in a specific universe, which will ultimately cause the end of that universe, aka the thing that Miguel O'Hara was seeking to prevent in all universes. However, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that this movie is without flaws. Some of the things that I do not like about this movie has to be the fact that this movie has some serious pacing issues in the early part of the movie, especially in the scene or sequence where we see Miles Morales living his everyday life in the city of New York City in his own home world. In my complete honest opinion, I feel that the animators, directors, and writers of the movie could have easily shaven off 10 to 20 minutes of footage in the early part of the movie, including the sequences of both Miles' homeworld of New York City and a little bit from the scene in Mombasa, India, which dragged on for a little bit too much. And of course, the second main thing I do not like about this movie, in order to create an impartial review, has to be the fact that this movie has some complex subjects that not many everyday audience members may not be able to understand, especially the concept of canon events, which requires that you, the audience member, have some basic knowledge regarding the lore of Spider-Man. And of course, the third main thing I do not like about this movie has to be the inconsistent tones that this movie has in the movie. For example, the beginning of the movie had very emotional sequences, followed by very comedic sequences, followed by very dark sequences, followed by more lighthearted sequences, followed by more dark sequences, and a never-ending cycle of incontinuous tones throughout the entirety of the movie. And of course, the fourth main thing I do not like about this movie has to be the fact that this movie ends on a massive cliffhanger where you, the audience, have to wait an entire year in order to realize or find out what happens in the second part of the movie, which was very anticlimactic, especially considering how the movie ends on such a high note and then ends on a very depressing note. Well, there you have it. When it comes to placing this movie on the Annie's Reviews grading system, I have to say that this movie deserves 8.5 chimichangas out of 10 chimichangas, a rewatchability score of 1 time every 3 years in order to maintain its authenticity and impact on your emotions, as well as the awesomeness of the animation styles in this movie, as well as an overall grade of a B on an A+ grading system. Well, there you have it. Feel free to drop a comment down below letting me know your thoughts about this movie, and feel free to follow me at Annie Talks About Movies Way Too Much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.